Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Fortner, independent consultant with The Pampered Chef, and I help busy people prepare quick and easy, budget-friendly meals using high-quality tools, nutritious and delicious recipes, and time-saving and budget-friendly tips. So I'd like to thank you for joining me today. If you know anyone looking for quick and easy meals, some budget-friendly tips, how to make mealtime easier, please share this video with them. And also be sure to click like, subscribe, follow, whatever platform you're on so you know next time I go live. So let's get started. Today we are going to make taco chili mac, and it is from our fall and winter 2022 Season's Best. Our Season's Best comes out every 6 months. We get a new collection of recipes with new tips and ideas for making meal times easier. And like I said, today we're going to do taco chili mac. This is one of my new favorites. Absolutely love this recipe. It's so quick and easy. It's a 30-minute or less recipe. The ingredients basically come from your pantry, budget-friendly, and high in fiber. I'm actually going to kick it up a notch there too. So, okay, both on the budget and on the fiber and nutrition. And I'll share those tips as we go along. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start. It actually calls for a 5-quart skillet, which comes from our new Brilliance cookware line. And which is a great line. I absolutely love it. I just don't have that one yet. So I'm actually going to use my 12-inch cast iron skillet for this. A 12-inch skillet will work. Again, if you have our 12-inch cast iron or a 12-inch executive, those or 11-inch executive, that will work. I'm happy to sell you a piece of Brilliance cookware, obviously, but if you have something that'll work, go ahead and use that. So we're going to start with our cast iron skillet. I'm going to give it a nice warm up here. And we're going to chop an onion, medium onion, and a red pepper. Now, if you follow my CSA unboxings, this actually was featured in that. This came this week in our CSA box. So if you don't have a red pepper, go ahead and use yellow, orange, green. I'm not a green pepper fan. I much prefer the other colored peppers. Just they're milder. There's something about the green pepper flavor for me. But don't be afraid to mix things up a little bit, as you'll see I do today in this recipe. Okay, so while that skillet preheats, we're going to chop up. It's important to use a sharp knife. I know people sometimes are afraid of that sharp blade, but you're actually more likely to cut yourself with a dull knife than with a sharp knife, because you never know what that dull blade's going to do in terms of if it kind of slides off of your the food that you're trying to cut. So, okay, there we go. And I'm actually using our Forged Cutlery line. It's forged German steel, lifetime warranty, full tang, you can see there. It's a great value. It's one of my favorites in the catalog, especially since you can get it for half price or even free when you host a party. So we're just going to cut this up into smaller chunks there, and we're going to throw it into our manual food processor. And I love this manual food processor. The blades are at 3 different heights, so food doesn't get stuck. Okay, so we're going to put that in, and we're just going to give it a few pumps there. Kids love to do this, so as long as you're supervising them, making sure the blades stay in and the lid stays on, this is a great job for kids. I started doing Pampered Chef when my kids were 2 and 6, and they absolutely love the food chopper and anything that pumps like this. They were such a big help in the kitchen. Okay, so let's scrape this into here. The onions cooking. This is going to smell so good, and this is our dinner. I know I'm doing this around lunchtime, but I also know plans tend to go off the rails. It's been a crazy week around here. I don't know about you guys, but whether your day is super busy or it's just been one of those long, tiring weeks, it's great to have a simple and easy meal that you can just get on the table quickly. Okay, so now we're going to go to our pepper. Slice right through the top there. I forgot to give myself a garbage bowl. Oh well. Okay, I'm going to use my scoop loop to just scoop out the seeds. There we go. Okay, now that I cut into it, I see I've got kind of a bad spot in there. It happens. So I'm just going to cut this down here. Cut around that spot. No big deal. There we go. That'll work. Okay, and of course we don't want to let the parts on the top go to waste, so I'm just going to cut around that and make sure those end up in there. There we go. Okay. There we go. We got a couple humps there. Get our pepper nice and chopped up. I love the smell of onions and peppers cooking on the stove. Also love it when my husband walks in while I'm doing that because he always gets excited about what I might be cooking. Okay, there we go. See how quick and easy that chopped up? So much easier than just standing and chopping it all individually, dicing it by hand. And also, one thing I like about chopping it up in a food processor is you can get it as chunky or as fine as you want, especially when you have those picky eaters. Sometimes it's good to chop it up into tiny pieces. It gets all mixed up in there. They don't even realize it's there, and you still get all that good nutritious food into them, right? Okay. There we go. Okay, we're done with the food processor, so I'm going to put that off to the side. Okay. Take a look at my recipe. So we got the medium onion chopped, the bell pepper seeded and chopped. Okay, now it calls for a pound of lean ground beef. Now this is where I'm going to do like a little kitchen hack here. So I did some research, and those of you who have seen my videos, we're plant-based in my house anyway, so I'm not going to throw the beef in. But what I'm going to sub is lentils. I'm going to use black lentils. I love beluga. They're also known as beluga lentils. Anyway, they're a great sub in terms of texture and look for beef. I used them one time in a chili and took them to church for a potluck soup dinner, and people had no idea I didn't have meat in my chili. No clue. Some meat and potato church member was on his second bowl before he found out that I didn't have any meat in there. So, okay, so a little comparison here in terms of nutrition and budget. So beef versus lentils. One thing, beef, as you all know, when you cook it, you're going to cook down. You're going to cook out all that water, and then, of course, you want to drain the fat and everything in there. Lentils, they cook up, obviously. They're dried, so you're going to add water. So when I use when I'm subbing lentils, instead of using a pound of lentils, especially dried lentils, and you can use a pound of already pre-cooked lentils. I've seen, whether it be green lentils or black lentils, you can use either one of those. I have seen those available in cans, but the cheapest way, of course, is to get them dried. And the equivalent, which is about a third of a pound, you're going to use a third of a pound of lentils with about 2/3. I'll have to look up the quantity on that water. For these, I just pre-soaked them. So first thing this morning, I've got a third of a pound lentils, added hot water to them, and just let them soak all morning. And that's going to give me a pound of soaked lentils. So I'm going to put those in, and that honestly cost me about $1, really $1 right there. Versus a pound of ground meat. I was on my local grocery store website, and the cheapest I could find, and if you buy it in bulk, would be about $3 or a little bit over $3 per pound. So you're saving $2 there right away by switching to the lentils. You could also just go ahead and use some pinto beans or kidney beans or something like that. So some other comparison information. There is no fat in those lentils compared to 4% or 20%, 4 grams or 20% of your recommended saturated fat for the day. There's no cholesterol in the lentils versus 23% of your recommended, although I don't recommend cholesterol at all, but 70 milligrams of cholesterol or 23% of what's considered the RDA for cholesterol. There's potassium in the lentils, 237 milligrams or 6%. You're going to kick up your fiber with these lentils. So 14% of your recommended fiber for the day, just with those lentils. Protein does take a little bit of a hit. And if I wanted to, I could throw in a scoop of our pea protein enrichables to kick up the protein. We're talking 9 grams in the lentils versus 21 in the beef. But to be honest with you, we all get so much protein. You see protein everywhere, protein promoted everywhere. And it is important that we get protein, but we have not had a case of protein deficiency in this country long enough that we don't even have an English term for it. So the idea that you might be protein deficient is something I wouldn't even worry about. So, like I said, 9 versus 21 grams there. Iron comes out equal, about the same amount per serving of iron in lentils and beef. Your beef is going to have 65 milligrams of sodium versus your lentils don't have any. So anyway, just a nutritional comparison there, and that's one of the many reasons we actually go with the lentils versus meat in our meals. The fiber especially for us because we do have a family. I have a family history of colon cancer, so it's something that I'm working hard to avoid. And one of the ways I do that is through my diet. So, okay, so we've added our ground beef. Now we're going to add our seasoning, and love this seasoning. It's one of our brand new seasonings, everything taco seasoning. So we're going to put in. I'll double check here. I believe a tablespoon of everything taco seasoning. There we go. That is going to be so good. Okay, we're going to give that a stir. Oh my goodness, that is smelling so good. I can't believe I have to wait until dinner to eat that tonight, but it'll be worth it. And I won't have to worry about dinner come dinner time, right? Just have to warm it up. Okay. So we've got that going. Now we have our lentils in there, our seasoning, onion, and pepper. I'm going to add a can of drained and rinsed black beans. There we go. And you'll notice you can use just a can of black beans that you get at the grocery store. I actually use dried black beans. I cook it up and then I freeze it in jars just because it's a bit cheaper there. It allows me to afford getting some organic dried beans. So that's the way I save some money in order to do the organic versus the conventional. I go dried and then I just cook them up in my pressure cooker in a giant batch and then freeze them in my freezer for when I need them like this. Okay. There we go. Got that all mixed up. Okay. And we're going to add in our so black beans, tomato sauce, beef broth, and milk. Okay. So good collection of items here. We're going to start with our water. I'm actually cheating here a bit. So it calls for 2.5 cups of beef broth. Add the water. And when that comes up, we use Better Than Bouillon. So this is the, and it comes in many different flavors. It actually comes in chicken and beef and stuff like that. This is the no beef base. So this is their vegetarian beef flavored blend. So I'm going to use that. And it's about, and I forgot to refill it. So let's scrape the sides here. So I'm going to need about 2 tablespoons. I'm actually going to go short on that anyway, but that's okay. It'll still be awesome. Just wipe my finger. I washed my hands before starting this, so there we go. Okay, so we have our beef broth in there, and then, like I said, I added, instead of 2.5 cups of beef broth, I was doing the water, 2.5 cups of water plus the bouillon base. But then, instead of tomato sauce, it calls for 15, what am I thinking, ounces of tomato sauce. Sorry about that. So I actually just use tomato paste for that. If you do a 6-ounce can of tomato paste plus a cup of water, that will equal 2 cups or your 15-ounce jar of tomato sauce. And that way I don't have to worry about keeping tomato sauce and tomato paste in my pantry. I can just focus on one. So I keep the tomato paste and then I just use water to dilute it, and it works out really well. There we go. Some other reasons why I do that. Grab my cheat sheet here. So your tomato sauce, a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce is $1.59 at my grocery store right now, versus a 6-ounce can of tomato paste is 69 cents. So we've got a 90-cent savings there just by going with tomato paste and water over tomato sauce. So that was definitely one of my favorite budget and pantry hacks, is to go with the tomato paste instead of the tomato sauce. Okay. What else did I find out about that? That The sodium is a lot less than the tomato paste. You're talking 20 milligrams of sodium versus 260. So big savings on sodium, and we all know we don't need more salt in our diet. Matter of fact, we need less for heart health. Potassium, your potassium is going to be higher in your tomato paste than in your tomato sauce, 273 versus 340. Iron is about the same, and fiber is about the same between the two. So, okay, we're gonna give that a good stir. Break down that tomato paste. Okay, there we go. What's next here? Okay, and the milk. Okay, so we'll make sure we got it all. Then we're going to add a cup of milk. And of course, for us, this is non-dairy milk, but you can use whichever one you like. You can see why we need a big pan. I think hopefully you guys can see how full our skillet's getting. But we'll just give it a gentle stir here. Okay, there we go. We're going to let that come up to a simmer. There we go. And while that does that, I'm going to go ahead and clean up some of our items here. So working while that's doing its work, I'm going to do my work and do a little bit of cleanup here. It's a great way to save time on meal prep and clean up afterwards. I know after a long day and then cooking dinner, even an easy meal, sometimes the last thing I want to do is clean up dinner. So let's see here. Okay, we'll move this over here. I'm going to add my dirty dishes then to the sink. Excuse me. There we go. Okay. While we wait for that to come to a simmer, some other, let's see, I already talked to you about, see, the black beans were 69 cents. I found that to be about even. Like I said, conventional black beans, what was I thinking? Anyway, the beans versus dry beans, it depends on the price of beans. I usually can save money going organic dried, but right now I think it's evening out. So the lentils, like I said, were 70 cents to $1 for that. Kind of depended on if I was looking for green lentils from my grocery store or getting those black beluga lentils from Amazon. And I already told you about the tomato sauce versus tomato paste. So, okay, so excellent. We are coming up to a simmer here. And the next ingredient we need to add is our pasta. Now, it calls for elbows. You don't really have to be picky about that. So I'm using actually whole wheat shells. So we're going to add that in. There we go. So, like I said, it calls for macaroni. I'm using whole wheat shells. You could also use bow ties. Those are fun. For your kids, if you have some fun-shaped pasta that they're going to like, go ahead and use that. That is totally fine. You can be creative and make adjustments there, too. So, okay. So we're going to let that simmer. It's going to take about 10 minutes for that pasta to cook. So while we do that, we'll move on to some of the steps for later in the process here. So I'm going to move this out of the way here. Okay. Next, we're going to work on our toppings. So while that cooks, we'll start on our toppings. And this is where my family is having a lot of fun. Absolutely loves it because I pull the chips out, which doesn't happen very often. So we're going to, let me make sure I get this right here. Okay. So we want 2 cups, trying to be careful with how loud this might be. We want 2 cups of crushed tortilla chips. And these are just, the generic, store brand family pack of white corn tortilla chips. We do like the scoops though, because it makes it easier, if you're doing a dip with it. So we do tend to gravitate towards those. So. Okay, and we're just going to crush these up with our hands. If you're someone who doesn't like to get their hands dirty, you can put it in here and use a spoon. You probably even use our mix and chop to crush them up. Okay. If you knew you were going to crush them all, you could actually just crush them in the bag too, but we're not going to use that many. Okay, and that is simmering nicely. I'm glad to see that. How are we doing here? Excellent, just about there. Let's do a couple more. Okay, let me see if we're supposed to stir this at all during the cooking. Yep, stirring occasionally. So, of course, I let my spoon go over here. Okay, here we go. A little bit of a stir to make sure it's not sticking on the bottom. There we go. Excellent. Let's do that there. Okay. And we have, how much do we have? Cheese. I know it's a package, so a total of, what's this? 16 ounces of cheese. I'm actually using a 7-ounce bag. I'm just going to go half and half. And this is actually non-dairy cheese. So as much as I love cheese, we do get a lot of cheese, and it's very high in fat. And the flavor goes a long way with cheese. So I just kind of cut it back in half there. So we're going to use half of our cheese in here. And look, you can see that's going to be plenty right there anyway. Let me make sure I'm saying that right too. Double check it here. Oh, nope, sorry, I'm wrong. 8 ounces total. So 8 ounces total. So yeah, 1 bag of cheese divided. So we're putting half of our cheese into here with our chips. And then we're also going to add, let me make sure here, I know we need a total of 3 teaspoons of seasoning again, but divided. So we need, okay, so I thought 2 teaspoons of the everything taco seasoning going into our topping here. So we got 1, 2, there we go. Turn this down a bit. Okay, and then we're just going to give this a stir. Make sure our cheese and our chips and seasoning are all mixed up there. And that is going to be so good on top of our taco chili mac. There we go. Okay, so that is one of our toppings. And our other one is a cream sauce. So you want to use about a 1/4 cup of sour cream or plain yogurt and about a tablespoon of milk. This is actually a cashew cream sauce that I'm using. So we're going to add a teaspoon of everything taco seasoning to this. Give it a stir. I just realized I forgot to set a timer on our pasta there, so we'll have to just check it. Okay. There, perfect. Okay, so we have our crunchy topping, and what's going to happen, and I'm actually going to do this later since this is dinner as a method of warming our dinner back up again, but when it's time for us to have dinner, I am going to add the chip and seasoning and cheese mixture to it, and then I'm just going to touch that up in the oven. That will warm up my meal. If you're going straight from cooking to dinner, then as soon as we're done with this part, we would add that topping and then finish it off in the oven just to get that cheese and that topping melted. But like I said, I'm going to do it at dinner time to warm it back up again. But once you have that done in the oven, then you're going to work with your toppings, which are your, you can use chopped cilantro, you can drizzle this cream sauce over top of it, you can top it with avocado, salsa if you want to do that. Perfect, it'll just be awesome. So let me double check here. Any other? Oh, another thing you can do is when you're doing the onion and pepper and meat part, or like I said, I did lentils, but when you're doing that part of the meal, you can double your ingredients and then take half out. That way, next time you go to make this or anything else, chili or some other, even with those ingredients, pasta sauce, pasta night, you can put those aside, that half, when you're doubling it, put half of it aside, put it in your freezer, and then you have a good head start on that next meal with that meal base. So it's a great way to save some time. You can also buy in bulk, and that'll save you some money. So that's some great tips there. You can also use, if you don't want to use beef or lentils or beans, you can also use your ground chicken or your ground turkey. Those would work as well. or even chorizo, something like that. So I would imagine actually if you don't want to go with the lentils but you still want to go plant-based, you could use tofu. And tofu is great broken up into a scramble with the mix and chops. So, okay, so we'll keep letting this go. We do have one more step with this part of the dish. Make sure I'm not spilling over there. There we go. Okay, and then we'll let that pasta finish cooking there. And we're going to add in the remaining cheese. So that'll give that cheesy flavor and creaminess to our main dish here. Or, sorry, the main part of it. Get that all in. Give that a good stir while that pasta finishes up. Stir that in gently. And that adding the cheese at this point too kind of gives it a creamier base. Give that a nice gentle stir. Get that flavor all included all the way throughout. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're just going to let that pasta cook. And like I said, when I'm done, or when the pasta's done cooking, that is when you add your topping, your mix of cheese, chips, and seasoning, and then you finish it up in the oven. I want to say for 6 to 8 minutes, just enough to melt that cheese. And then you pull it out and you top it with your salsa, your cilantro, or your crema there that you've put together quickly. I love how quick and easy that is to put together, right? And it's going to be so delicious on top of here. But I'm going to let this finish cooking, and then right before dinner tonight, since I am doing that later, I'm going to add our topping, warm it up in the oven for dinner for my family, and then add our other toppings to it. So I hope you see how quick and easy that is to make, and probably took me just a little bit longer with the talking, but I hope it's something that you'll try. I will share the recipe with you, and if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to comment below or send me a message. I'm happy to answer them. And again, if you know someone looking for quick and easy, budget-friendly meals that would like some additional information and help, please feel free to share this video with them. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you guys all have a great day. Thanks. Bye.